All right, so Christina, I have made you co-host. You should be able to share your screen whenever you're ready.
All right. Is everyone able to hear me and see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So, get to chat with you guys today about the most responsible way to teach students about AI. And it probably doesn't help if I try to pretend that AI didn't help build the course. Um, 2025, we were really running into problems with AI. And we needed students to, understand the capabilities and limitations. No, it is not reading your mind and magically picking out exactly what you would have said. Be able to weigh the ethical, legal, and environmental issues involved, especially with several towns around here potentially getting data centers, and be able to build a framework for responsible AI use for academics, professional life, and personal life. But most importantly, we needed them to stop using AI to do their homework. The challenge we were running into is AI's capabilities were changing constantly. Is and was, no perfect way to detect AI use. We didn't have any on-campus experts in AI, and the closest thing we had, me, was still very much learning how this whole thing worked. So I enlisted a whole design team to help build this Introduction to AI course. We had myself as the lead designer. We had ChatGPT, my assistant nicknamed Tilt after pinball for the way it bounces around and doesn't hit what I'm aiming at, to help as the design assistant and drafting content. A number of other AI tools to create examples and to be live demonstrations of bias and inaccuracy, and then Claude to serve as a reviewer of the content after it was all together. So I operated under these three major guiding principles. I'm the one in charge, AI is the support. This is the same principle I wanted to teach students, that the human still has to be the one in charge. We are not trusting any of it, we're verifying constantly. And we are treating AI mistakes as a learning opportunity and not an actual mistake. So, with the design process, I normally follow the backwards design process, outcomes to assessments to content. And with the AI review, it became just a lot more recursive than normal. To get started, I turned to ChatGPT that I was building, or I was brainstorming at the time, a self-paced micro course or orientation for our students and perhaps our faculty and staff related to generative AI use to help them understand the limitations and how to use it responsibly. I had an initial draft of 5 learning outcomes, and my initial request was to help refine those learning outcomes back and forth way too many times to eventually create the 6 learning outcomes that became the course. To define generative AI and LLMs, describe the capabilities and limitations, identify the legal, ethical, and environmental considerations, apply the college's academic honesty policies, distinguish between appropriate and inappropriate uses of AI, and evaluate AI generated content. So, after we came up with the final learning outcomes, Tilt came up with its suggestion for the module layout. I disagreed with it. My final layout, it was just a simple what it is, the risks and, potential problems of using it, and then the final putting it together of how to use it responsibly. Assessments was fun. I had a number of constraints. Mainly, there was no active instructor presence. I did not have the time to review any student submissions to give regular feedback. So everything had to be either auto-graded quizzes or unscored reflections or discussions that were entirely completion based. And I used AI to draft those assessments. ChatGPT gave me 11 different options for the Module 1 assessment, and it was so much easier to reject some, reshuffle things around, and just refine what it gave me rather than have to create it from scratch. The content was fun as well. I first used AI for some platform translation. I decided to use Articulate Rise for the content, just for the more interactive elements. But I haven't used Rise all that much, so I wasn't as familiar with all of its content blocks. So had, as we created each section of content, Tilt suggest what type of Rise content block could work for that. Sometimes it gave one suggestion, sometimes it gave multiple. Sometimes I listened, sometimes I didn't. But using AI also really accelerated drafting. We had entire lessons drafted in a matter of minutes and could then spend a lot more time reviewing and revising everything. And what I noticed and got a little annoyed with was Tilt started trying to mimic my voice. It kept trying to sound like me as it was drafting things. I had to put a stop to that because it's being witty is my job, not its job. We don't trust, we verify everything with AI. My description of using AI has been be wrong more confidently, faster. For review, I initially turned to Claude and asked it to serve as an SME to review the content to ensure accuracy and to help make sure I'm getting a balance between enough detail and not being overwhelming. Having a Claude do the review is helpful because the model that created the content is usually the worst one for being able to evaluate whether it's actually good. So I gave Claude a very different framing. It was the SME reviewer rather than a collaborator or co-author. And even after I had reviewed some of the things ChatGPT came up with, Claude still found some things that both ChatGPT and I missed. Some typos, some things that were half true, and some missed opportunities for adding additional detail or clarification or analogies that would help students understand. A big idea just was that verification is not delegating control to a different AI. We were still verifying the verification. And I learned AI will usually back down if you disagree with it. It doesn't matter if you're disagreeing with it for a right reason or a wrong reason, but it will back down very quickly. An example of that is in the ethics section. I talk about the idea of deepfakes, and I describe this as the true dark side of AI. And Claude suggested rephrasing that because it was overly dramatic and slightly sensationalist. So it suggested a couple alternatives. I argued with it. I said, I'm going to argue in favor of keeping my dark side of AI line, that I fairly present both sides of every other issue, but there's no redeeming quality in the uses that I was listing there. The images, the voice cloning scams, all of that horrible stuff. And Claude's immediate response was, "You're right, and I withdraw my objection." So I think it would have done the same thing if my reasoning was just, "I feel like being dark side." And context really helps. Having the AI know the audience, the goals, your location, even in general sense. When it was reviewing, Claude had made some suggestions about additional information, especially for using AI in regards to HIPAA guidelines, based on knowing that community college students are often going into healthcare fields. And feature, not a bug, using AI's mistakes to help teach what AI is capable of. My little line there, I want to tell you this story because it was crazy. Using AI flaws as an example, our module 2 in this involves evaluating some AI output for bias, hallucination, or inappropriate tone. Tilt drafted several prompts that were most likely to produce biased results or hallucination. Prompts that included some loaded language, prompts that were asking for specific statistics that it wasn't likely to have. I ran all of those prompts through 5 different AI tools, including Claude and ChatGPT, not logged in as myself, so it didn't have my history or um, my context in there for them. I compiled all those into a Word document and gave that file to ChatGPT to help evaluate which ones were the best, worst examples. And ChatGPT starts coming up with examples that were not in that file. And I'm sitting there going, "Stop. You just are hallucinating the hallucinations." And there were some other legitimate mess ups that were used as examples. One of the potentially problematic prompts that we fed to the 5 different AIs was to explain the current unemployment rate in Ohio and what factors are causing it. Copilot came up with this wonderful explanation about Ohio's current unemployment rate being 4.3% as of November 2025. If you look through it, the source is a little questionable, but look at my citation at the bottom. Copilot gave me this answer on November 19th, 2025, which is well before it should have had any official numbers for November 2025. It just made those things up out of the ether. And I wasn't just using my examples to teach AI flaws. I created a discussion post that gave students a list of topics that were again designed to be a little bias prone, things that had loaded language or the potential to have one side or the other be treated as the good answer. And I had students actually create a prompt, share the AI response, and then take a look at it to see, does this meet your expectations? Is it balanced? Is it showing signs of bias? Is it showing signs of hallucination? So I'm actually putting the students in the position to review them themselves. And when we finished building all of the content, we put it all together in Sakai, Articulate Rise, and Articulate Storyline. So we were using Sakai for the lessons for the release conditions, since this is a entirely self-paced course. I wanted to use the release options to control access through the course. Tests and quizzes for both unscored essay reflections and scored quizzes. and to give detailed feedback for both of those, and for discussions where students can share different opinions that were designed to be anonymous and required that students post before reading, so they're more likely to be honest with themselves. Articulate Rise was used mostly for the content modules, mostly for the interactive elements. And Articulate Storyline is what I used to create a certificate of completion. It just requires that students enter their ID and name, and then it will print a lovely little certificate for them. There were a few big lessons I learned throughout the design process with this. First, it's critically important to keep your own voice. That can't be something that is outsourced to AI ever. I know Tilt tried to mimic it, it didn't do well. But when I know that one of the instructors I asked to review it said that she could hear my voice in a lot of the content, I know I succeeded there. AI doesn't necessarily know your design philosophy. You have to bring it, you have to enforce it, you have to keep, the tool on track. Discovered that AI is really great at giving you a list of options and really, really bad at knowing which option is actually the best one. The more that the AI writes or creates, the more that you need to verify that information. And the less you know, the more you need to verify. So when I was having AI write the content and I'm still learning about this, there was a lot that I needed to double check. And verification needs a different framework. It's the old line of you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. So that's kind of just the presentation. Does anyone have any questions over the design part?
So, how long did it take you to put the course together, just generally speaking?
I started doing the brainstorming in October and I had the final reviews and human reviewers looking at things in January when we came back from Christmas break.
So, has it run uh, with students in the intervening time since you built it?
Yes, it's set up actually as a joinable project site. So the students are in here, they're just going through the content, they're sharing discussion posts.
That's great. And how many of them have actually earned certificates?
I haven't checked that recently, but it's not too many yet because I didn't have it ready to go at the start of spring semester. So I'm hoping at the start of fall semester that some of the writing intensive classes that are most concerned with students misusing AI for the assignments might have their students go through this as either a requirement or bonus points and submit that certificate as an assignment as proof of completion.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's an excellent example of how you kind of went through the design process and made it more visible for students as far as, the steps they need to take to verify. And hallucinations were great. Hallucinating the hallucinations. Um, does anybody else have any questions for Christina? We still have about 10 minutes.
So, Christina, it was a great presentation. Thank you. How much of is there like a making of that you share with the students at the end, or this whole process, the extent to which is it just us that gets to see this, or have you other intentions for your experience and sharing a how and with who?
For the students, I don't have any making of. The only thing I have is in the introduction section, the information that this course was generated with the assistance of AI, but that at all points in the process, a human did review and revise anything. But then I also throw a joke in there that, that being said, any remaining errors are entirely ChatGPT's fault.
Love that.
With my instructors, they're a very mixed group. You have some that are willing to embrace AI and to try to use it productively. And then you have some who are voted most likely to go eco-terrorist and blow up a data center. So I have to try to find a balance in there. One of the extra things I made was a small decision tree, which was, can I use AI for this assignment? And it starts first with, does your instructor allow it? So that was designed to put the instructors at ease that I'm not trying to take over their classes or replace their rules. I'm trying to help enforce that and find a reasonable compromise because with the world we're in, don't use AI is not a reasonable expectation.
Hey,
I love the
Christine.
decision tree. That's awesome.
Yeah, you were right about you're on the money about the way that AI backs off when you start to press it on things. It's like CodeRabbit does exactly the same thing. You can just say whatever, like a question back at it about something and put a bit of verbiage in there and it will back off. And like, I mean, a lot of analysts say this is just because the core code of all of these models is still something that is designed to leave a satisfied customer at the end of it, right? Like a chat.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the underlying. That's why I've posted those links there, right? So I've been reading quite a bit about this stuff, like about the economics of like data center build out and things like that. It's all kind of interesting, right? It could well be a massive stock bubble, yeah. But we'll see what happens, right? But you're right, it's not going to go away. And I mean, I'm using AI for some coding stuff and use Claude and that, and like, but. Yeah, I think critical thinking for the AI generation, that's a great bit of course you're producing there, It's cool.
Yep, to try to keep just when human judgment still matters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Miles, I've gotten quite a bit of feedback from different instructors who have gone through the course and at least perused the content. They really think that I've hit a good balance between, not encouraging them to use it for their homework and not saying you can't use it ever. Because, truth, once they're out of college and out in the real world, out in the job market, using AI is a skill that employers are looking for now. But I have not gotten a lot of feedback from students yet. So I'm hoping come fall when it gets a little more widespread, um, students in there, a few instructors requiring it as part of their classes, then I'm hoping to be able to get a lot more valuable feedback. Right now, the main one I get is, there's too many words, there's too much reading. Which I think if there's more than two paragraphs, they're going to say that.
All right. Any other questions? Adrian wants
I've
an
got
AI
I've
summary.
sort of, yeah, sort of question, but this is something I read recently that there's been a court case in Germany where a German court has found Google to be liable for its AI overviews, legally liable for it, even though they put disclaimers on it, right? The court has basically ruled that Google is responsible for those AI overviews. I think Google are appealing it at the minute in the German court system, but that's interesting, isn't it?
That is. It'd be very interesting to see how that ends up
Yeah,
shaking out.
yeah, exactly. I know.
I might see fewer summaries if they do get held liable for that. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Christina. It's an excellent course, and I'm sure that your students and faculty alike will get a lot of benefit out of it. So, thank you for sharing that with us. And let's see, it is now almost 1:30, so we have about a 10-minute break before our next session, which starts at 1:40. And that is our what to know about Sakai 25, Turnitin, and LTI 1.3. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording, and we'll be back in just over 10 minutes for our next session.